Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second day of Global Changemakers Virtual Youth Summit. My name is Sara Botero, and I am in charge of community engagement in Global Changemakers. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's panel on the planet. First, some notes. So first, we would really like you to use our social media using the hashtag VYS2020. We encourage you to send through any questions using the questions feature in this platform. And to join our Facebook group, we're going to share that on the comment section. We have some prizes lined up for you. So 15 lucky participants will win either a full scholarship to Changemakers School or a premium access pass to Steps to Startup. Please share a photo of yourself attending any of the sessions at the VYS on social media and tag us to enter the draw. So for today's panel, we have an absolutely amazing lineup. They're all global change makers and very close to us. So first, Ana Oposa, she's the Chief Mermaid of Save the Philippine Seas from our cohort of 2011. We have Kemo Fati, founder of Green Up Gambia from 2016. From 2017, from Switzerland, we have Marie-Claire Graf, the co-founder of Sustainability Week International. And last but not least, from Australia, Darcy Small. He's the co-founder of Cuba Coffee and from our cohort 2019. We have an amazing moderator as well, Andrew Brennan from Nat Geo. So without further ado, Andrew, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. Welcome to this panel today. I know that everyone's all over the world, and so I'll say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to folks, no matter where you're from. This panel is going to focus on the Sustainable Development Goals 11 through 15, which include the sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, and life on land. And we have a really insightful panel here with you today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. My name is Andrew Brennan. I'm the co-founder of the Pritchard Committee Student Voice Team, which is a United States-based nonprofit dedicated to ensuring that every child, no matter where you're from or what you look like, gets access to a quality education. I'm also an education fellow with National Geographic Society, where I support youth-led movements and organizations around the world. At National Geographic, our belief in the power of young people can be traced to the founding of our organization. There's a story that we like to tell about the founding of National Geographic, that it was 33 old white men in a room in Washington, D.C. And while they were too white and too male, they actually weren't as old as folks like to think. Of the 33 co-founders of National Geographic, 6 were under the age of 30 at the time they helped guide our founding. So that is to say, curiosity and imagination that young people bring to the table has always been a critical component of adventure and exploration, which is core to National Geographic. An explorer must embrace what comes naturally to young people, the belief that you've never achieved it all, and that there is always room to grow your passion, explore new parts unknown, and take action in defense of people and our planet. And our panelists are all doing exactly that. So I want to introduce them now, but before I do, I want to remind everyone, please, if you have questions during today's discussion, post them on Twitter, put them in the chat. We'd love to have this be as interactive as possible. And I just want to remind the panelists to please mute yourselves when you're not speaking, but please unmute yourself whenever you have anything to say, because we'd love to hear from you on a variety of these topics. I would like to just go ahead and introduce everyone and read some of your bios so that people have some background, and then we can get into some questions. Ana Oposa, Chief Mermaid at Save Philippines Seas. She's the Executive Director and Chief mermaid at Philippine seas, which is a movement to protect Philippines' coastal and marine resources by mobilizing citizen-led initiatives toward collective action and behavior change. Anna graduated with a degree in a Bachelor of Arts and English Studies from the University of the Philippines, Diliman in 2011, and obtained her degree in conservation science from the Imperial College London through the support of the Chevening Scholarship. And Anna, you'll have to let me know if I pronounced that wrong. Anna has created and led a number of campaigns and projects in shark conservation, which sounds very interesting, waste management, and environmental education. She has worked as a consultant for the Asian Development Bank, Oceania, Marine Wildlife Watch of the Philippines, and the UN Development Program. In addition to her long-term commitment to marine conservation, she is also deeply passionate about the correct use of punctuation marks, youth empowerment, and wearing sunscreen every day, which is good advice for everyone. Next, we have Kimo Fati, founder of Green Up Gambia. Kemo worked with SOS Children's Villages, an international organization with a mission to provide a loving home for every child. He's a youth activist, and his activism is focused on irregular migration, social justice, and climate issues. And we all know that those issues intersect. And so I'd be interested to hear more about your perspective there, Kemo. He and others built a movement to enlighten youth on the dangers associated with the Mediterranean route to Europe. Kemo is the founder of Green Up Gambia, a youth-led organization focused on deforestation and land degradation, introducing sustainable farming practices to enhance livelihoods in an ecologically friendly way. These practices entail government accountability with respect to protecting natural resources, sustainable waste management, and scaling up tree planting and aligning strategies with that of the Great Green Wall for the Sahel and Sahara. Kemo is a party delegate of the Gambia to the UNFCCC and the UNCCD, and he's worked with several international organizations such as Citizens Climate Lobby in the US and Global Changemakers in Switzerland. He is currently in charge of solid waste management in the Kanifing Municipal Council and director of Green Up Gambia. Next, we have Marie-Claire Graf, who is co-founder of Sustainability Week International. Marie is a Swiss youth advocate for sustainable development and climate action through her engagement in several initiatives around all dimensions of sustainability on a local, national, and international level. She's the president of the Swiss Associations of Student Organizations for Sustainability, which supports students in sustainability at all Swiss higher education institutions. She is representing students in different national and international bodies and committees and speaking frequently at high-level events to the media on sustainability in higher education. She is co-founder and core team member of the Sustainability Week Switzerland, the biggest student sustainability movement in Switzerland. From the very beginning, she has also been part of the Climate Strikes of Switzerland and is involved in collaboration with politics, for example, the government of Switzerland, parties and politicians to implement the demands, and is active in International Fridays for Future movement. Internationally, she is vice president and responsible for international external relations at Swiss Youth for Climate. Since UNFCCC COP23, aka World Climate Conference, she has been part of the bottom lining team of Youngo, the official youth constituency of the UNFCCC policy. Furthermore, she is a climate reality leader, trained by Al Gore, and is giving presentations, talks, and interviews on the climate crisis and what has to be done to fight it. Additionally, she is co-founder of an awarded crowdsourcing platform startup for aggregated science-based and citizen science data with the aim to empower citizens in urban planning and decision-making through organized and structured big data for sustainable cities called C-Square. And finally, we have Darcy Small, who's the founder of KUA. Darcy, sorry if I mispronounced that. Please feel free to correct me. But Darcy loves learning and big ideas. His childhood spent exploring natural surroundings of his rural hometown inspired him to pursue a career focused on climate action. He has a degree in solar energy and engineering, a field he finds exciting both environmentally and in its potential to drive climate action. Darcy has published related research based on fieldwork in Fiji and also undertook an engineering program in Uganda, sparking an interest in social entrepreneurship. Based on this, in the 18 months of work experience in the clean tech industry, he founded KUA. Darcy and his team use coffee to inspire people to take action against global inequalities and the climate crisis. So, wow, you all are an incredible panel. You are so busy, and clearly you are out there doing amazing, amazing work. And so I want to turn it over to you all to give you each a chance to introduce yourself and to talk a little bit more about your work and why you're passionate about it. And maybe we could start with Anna.
Generous introduction. I feel like you you really like hashed out all our bios. So thanks for that. So hi again, I'm Anna. I'm the executive director and the chief mermaid of Save Philippine Seas. So I'm based in the Philippines, which is the second largest archipelago in the world with over 7,500 islands. Save Philippines Sea started out as a social media campaign back in 2011 when I was a global change maker. So quite a long time ago, but I'm proud to say that I have remained in the field of marine conservation. And we eventually became a nonprofit in 2013. And now all our projects fall under three pillars, which is engage, educate, and empower. So we engage with different stakeholders from the national government to grassroots communities. We do a lot of environmental education programs, or at least before COVID-19, we were doing a lot of education programs in different parts of the Philippines. And we really believe in empowerment, which means the people that we train and interact with don't just walk away with facts, but also action points that they can do in their communities. So we call our so and when Andrew introduced me, he said we empower citizens, and so we spell the word citizen with SEA instead of citizen because we want to remind Filipinos that we are all connected to the sea, even if we live in cities. So that's all.
No, I love that. That's so creative, and it's a good way to constantly remind people the role that oceans play in all of our lives, even if we can't see them on a day-to-day basis. Camo, I wanted to turn to you now to ask you a very similar question. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work and your passion and maybe what drives you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Well, we are a youth organization. Our problem basically has been migration. We've seen a massive exodus of young people over the years heading to Europe for greener pasture. And this has significantly affected our harnessing our demographic dividend. So our focus usually was on saving life, not necessarily looking at the economic aspects of it. But later on, we realized that this exodus is greatly influenced by the economic activities, and in here is predominantly agriculture. So over the years, the agricultural sector also has been decimated by the climate impacts, and we all know what climate change means. You know, it doesn't come as just general heat, but it simply means at wet places at wet times there's more, and at dry places at dry times there's less. So we've been getting less and less rainfall over the years, from 4 months to 3 months, and now we are faced with acute food shortages. This has led to young people going out everywhere. In fact, there will be more and more coming if something is not done, if we go back to business as usual. So this warranted my creation of Green Up Gambia as as a social entity that can really look at some of these complex issues of climate change that are multifaceted, and we can't just tackle by a one-size-fits-all approach, in as much as over there in the Western or the global North, they are focused on mitigation, that is trying to check their gases. Here we are trying to focus on adaptation, which is about water, because our livelihoods are dependent on this. We don't have all these factories and machines, so we must be able to enhance nature-based solutions to be able to even stabilize our microclimate a bit. It's really scary what's going on here, and it's completely relatable and understandable if we see these masses of people fleeing to Europe. And of course, these are my brothers that we see the images all over TV. And we usually have a sarcastic saying that even goes on here that hundreds of years ago, it was slavery that they took us by and force. But now it's no longer slavery. We are voluntarily jumping into those boats. So this gave me a sobering reflection to really take action and see it much of as a responsibility that I need to put forward, in terms of helping to save humanity, not just the African continent or the migration.
Absolutely, and I think we know that young people kind of fleeing the country is never a good sign. And so anything that you all can do to help to address that, I think is really quite powerful. Marie, I wanted to kind of go to you next. Similar question. You do a ton of work on these issues and spend a ton of time on questions of sustainability and climate change. What drives you in that work? And can you tell us a little bit more about how you first got involved?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and also for this very detailed introduction. Maybe first I have to say that I grew up on the rural area of Switzerland. The nature was my playground. I grew up with having forests and everything, rivers around me, and everything was clean and healthy. And then when I learned more that all of this is under threat, and I even saw it with my own eyes, especially the glaciers and the snow in the Swiss mountains, it really hit me very hard. And first I got really frustrated and even depressed that what we are doing to our Earth and our planet, and that yeah, even in my lifetime things can be gone and species can be extinct, and the climate is so changing so rapidly, and all of this then pushed me to frustration and sadness. And then I found some other people who were very motivated, and some of them are global change makers, and they said, yeah, there is a solution. If we are active and if we all work together, we can change something. And then this then motivated, and I could turn my frustration and my anger into activism and being active on a lot of different levels. And very soon I realized when I tried to be active that there are different barriers. So when you want to, for example, change the education system, you cannot only talk to students or maybe the professors, but there's also politics involved. There are so many different stakeholders involved. And this then also led that I'm involved on a lot of different levels, from the international level to the schools where I am, to the people where I'm talking to, because at the end it's a very complex system, and all of them need to work together and somehow share the same vision. And this is what the Sustainability Week International is doing. It started in Switzerland, but then a lot of people wanted to join from all over the world and say, yeah, everyone needs to be able to join and work on this. And that's why we started the Sustainability Week International last year, and with a great success. Unfortunately, COVID interrupted our plans a little bit. I think that's common for everyone, but also we do now something online. But our vision and determination remains the same, that we want to empower young people, that they can drive their own education and be ready for the 21st century and facing all these challenges and be part of the change.
Absolutely, and I love that phrase that you use, turning frustration to action. I think I want to come back to that later in our conversation. But Darcy, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit as well, and telling us, what does it mean to be an environmental engineer? Sounds very complicated. Solar energy engineer, excuse me.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello to everyone at home. I would say I probably have one of the most specific engineering degrees out there. It's the long term for it is photovoltaic and solar energy engineering. And I pretty much spent 5 years learning how a solar panel works, learning where they operate in the world, their role in the energy grid, their role in countries that still don't have access to energy. And it was both like technical and social and had an element of community development in it as well, which was super, super interesting. But I essentially threw all of that away to start a coffee company 3 years ago, which was a bit of an unexpected twist. Solar energy is definitely a key way to address climate action, but I was on a trip to Uganda in 2017, and we met a local student there who grew up in the coffee growing region, and chatting to him about his experience growing coffee versus our experience drinking coffee, we realized that there was almost a complete disconnect, and became really interested in the way that people consume in countries like Australia, the impact that that can have on global issues such as climate change, and really local issues such as how climate change and farming is having an impact on the ground in Uganda where the coffee is coming from. So that's why we started Kua, and I guess our main difference is that we use coffee as a platform to educate and inspire people that drink it. And we do that by asking two key questions. So where does your coffee come from? And where do your coffee grounds after you've drunk the coffee end up? Which is something that we find that people don't often consider or can't really answer. And that's how you end up with really exploitative supply chains and really wasteful processes as well at the other end. So yeah, I found that coffee touches a lot of the SDGs that we'll be discussing today, which is cool.
Yeah, and your question really prompts some thinking and reflection from me as well. I really don't know that I could even answer that question, and I certainly will figure it out today after this discussion. So thank you everyone for kind of responding to that initial question. And I did just want to address the elephant in the room. We are facing a global pandemic. Most of the world is socially isolating. Over 90% of the world's young people are out of school. We are now doing this event virtually. What do you think this pandemic is going to mean for sustainability efforts, one, and both maybe short-term and long-term? And then my other question related is, what should young people who are looking to take action right now, but stuck at home, what should they be doing? And anyone can take that to start.
Okay, then let me maybe start. I think what this pandemic shows that it's never good if we run into a global accelerating crisis, because as soon as there is a global challenge, it's very tricky that we can help each other, because everyone is facing threats and everyone is so busy solving their own problems. And this is the same with the climate crisis. Of course, it's not the same challenges as the Philippines or the US or Australia or Gambia or Switzerland are facing, but we all have to face something, and it's unprecedented and it's so big that we just can't cope with it. And I think this is the biggest learning on the negative side. And on the positive side, that our governments can take rapid action to prevent crises. They can educate people, they can have large scale intervention, and they have all the money it takes to solve crises. And they just are not willing to do. So we have to work on the willingness, on the fact that there is not enough money, there is not enough education, there is not enough of everything. There is, and young people should gather now in this time and plan what we can do now and afterwards, and really point out, hey, it's only a lack of will. It's not a lack of any other capacity that we cannot change the climate crisis and any other related crises.
Absolutely. I love your point there around we were in crisis before the pandemic. We are still in crisis now, but at least now we're seeing what we're actually capable of when we are willing to move. Kimo, Darcy, Anna, would you like to respond to that question as well? You know, both what what do you think might be some of the long-term impacts on sustainability of the pandemic, and also what should young people who are looking to make change but are stuck at home be thinking about right now?
I can talk
I
about
hope I
maybe
could go.
short term. Oh,
You go,
go
Anna,
ahead.
you were first.
Okay, okay. I'll talk about the short-term impacts first, on marine conservation and maybe waste management. So, obviously, it's affected our work because we can't travel, we can't convene people, there's no field work, and it's summer in the Philippines, so this is always our busiest time. But we can't, we have to be at home, and the biggest change has been trying to figure out how to create events online. So like this week it was Earth Day, so there's so many webinars, and we had a Netflix party to watch Dark Seas, and then we had a virtual screening of the story of plastics. But one thing that we're also thinking about a lot is all the waste generated from the biohazardous waste and the medical waste. In the Philippines, it's illegal to incinerate waste. So they're just piling up in our landfills and our dump sites, which can be hazardous to the waste pickers, but also to everyone involved in the waste supply chain. So that's something that we're thinking about. But on the another thing that we're not talking about is that because people have limited access to food and food security, the illegal fishing has actually been increasing in the Philippines. So, there are so many people saying nature is healing because we're not disturbing nature, but then there are other sides of it also that we need to be thinking about. What young people can do is use this time to learn, since a lot of organizations are putting free resources online, webinars, watch parties. Then it's an opportunity to, if you're interested in a certain topic, then the information is at your fingertips. But also they can take action in terms of writing leaders, reaching out to leaders in their communities on certain proposals that they might be interested in.
I think learning is great advice. Thank you so much. And thank you also for sharing that anecdote around the illegal fishing in the Philippines. I had not read about that yet, but we'll look more into that. That's very interesting. Darcy, you were going to add something to this conversation.
Yeah, a couple of great responses, so I'll see what I can add to this discussion. But I think that COVID has prompted a really interesting look from the business perspective into A, like, can we survive? And then B, why are we here and what is our business going to look like afterwards? And I'm really curious, after our, I guess, immediate crisis has been overcome, and if we call climate change the enduring crisis, how the business community is going to respond to that. And I'm optimistic that this real pause point gives them a chance to look at their purpose and their values, and to perhaps reevaluate and make sure that they are surviving, so that their business can work in harmony with people and planet. And I think that young people particularly, and increasingly as more and more young people get into work, have to be really vocal in this space and choose where they work and choose what roles they work in based on what the company is doing for issues like climate change. And I really hope that we don't put economics first, given that this is putting so much pressure financially on businesses. I'm hopeful that we come out of this and still really look to fight that enduring crisis.
Absolutely. Calling on young people to be informed consumers. I think that's a really strong call to action as well. Kemal, did you want to add anything?
Yes, just that Anna was mentioning the illegal fishing and the waste management in the Philippines. The situation is quite strikingly similar in the Gambia. Myself, I am currently in charge of the largest landfill in the Gambia. It's a nightmare when you go in there currently with the COVID situation, knowing fully well that those people who are even there, it's legal to burn waste in the Gambia. So the landfill basically is looked after from burning and replenishing. So it's like there's constant smoke, and people are always scavenging in the rubbish. So this can really put some really health threats to the communities around, because there is not a holistic and sound waste management system in the Gambia. And also, I feel like the crisis also has we've lost momentum on our climate goals, because in here we've been talking about logging, which has been a crisis in the Gambia, that business people from China have been continuously logging into our forests. So this is also something that can give way to pandemics, because we are reaching access to places where humans have not yet been before. So we're facing risk of coming in contact with some of these diseases that we don't know where they are coming from. So right now we are losing land faster to logging and all forms of wind and water action. So this is really affecting our state of mind right now, because lockdown is almost impossible in places like Gambia, because our economies does not support it. Most of the people live from day to day, day by day, hand to mouth, so they can't really stay inside no matter what. So COVID is not actually going to end up as a health concern for the people here. It's going to be an economic killer. And this is our worry as of now. But as young people, what we are doing is trying to enlighten these communities, because most of the people are religiously oriented. So they are taking the COVID to be something that doesn't affect someone with melanin in their skin, or places of tropics where we have the sun inside. So we are trying to break all these stereotypes from the people's mind, from our phones, on our WhatsApp statuses. We are going out sometimes on a self-isolation on pickups. Young people are really turning the momentum, the fight, even on climate, to COVID now, because frankly speaking, we are faced with much more urgent. We're in the middle of a pandemic right now. So all of the planetary issues will come later on. But I believe that what we should take with us in this discussion is that we must kind of return to business as usual, but having to do things a little more differently, because carrying all these things that we've been doing and go back, I think this pandemic bringing capitalism to a juddering halt should give us a sobering reflection to not go to business as usual. But since there is no option, we need to get our things back up and running, because we can see what this halt has done to people's livelihood. So that means that we just need to find a balance in between this, But as of now, we are faced with so much uncertainty, and we are trying as much as possible to just make sure we raise the consciousness of our people in our homes and wherever we can. That's what we can advise young people, especially from sub-Saharan Africa, with low levels of literacy and this economic chaos.
Thank you, Kamal. And what I love about what you just shared, and really what all the panelists shared, is this kind of underscoring of the fact that young people are really leading the efforts in response to the crisis and in finding solutions to figure out what does the world look like post-crisis. And I think that stands in contrast with some of the perceptions that young people are just being lazy or just kind of taking this as a vacation. That doesn't ring true for me, and I know that for folks on this call and for certainly all of you, that's definitely not the case. We are getting dozens of questions in the chat that I'm going to try and combine and get to as many as possible. One question that's come up a lot is around how to get involved from the beginning. How did you first get involved with this work? But I want to just add an additional piece of context to that. Knowing how busy young people are, balancing life and school and friends and growing up and everything else, what advice do you have for trying to balance all of that with the change-making work that you all have done? So 2 questions, feel free to answer either one. First one is, what's the first thing that someone should do who's first looking to get involved? And then second, how have you been able to stay sane while you've been doing all of this work for so many years?
I would like to go first. Sometimes when you are in the world of change making, it depends on your environment. Like Marita mentioned that she turned her frustration into action. Sometimes you wake up every day and you kind of have your own personal goals, and you're walking in there. For myself, I wanted to be the Wolf of Wall Street. You wake up every day, just walk down, go to school. You need to become a financial analyst, and you need to just make so much money. So this becomes your dream, and then you program your life to this. So But within time, as you grow up, you begin to unlock certain things based on your encounters and what really matters to you. In fact, you find out that what you are aiming for is not actually what's making you happy. So there comes a time when you have that pause in your life and then you reflect on these things. This is what gives you that drive to wake up every day and try to make life better for the person on your right and on your left. It's basically a natural human concept that if your house is on fire, you will not think of getting your couch out. The next thing you will do is to alert the next neighbor. So generally, our nature as human beings is designed in such a way to just be responsive like that. So this kinds of naturally builds up in some humans, but the understanding comes with looking and analyzing your environment, and later on the drive and the spirit will grow as you go. You begin to understand this. I think for me it started in such a way, and then the others just fall spontaneously to its places.
Does anyone else want to jump in on that question?
Yeah, maybe I can add that I'm very privileged, so I don't have to starve. I can speak up. I have the right to go to school. We have a stable political system, financial system, and everything. And I think when you have privileges, it comes also with responsibilities. And for me, these responsibilities became very clear when I saw that other kids didn't have the choice I had. So they don't have the choice that they can be as engaged. They cannot talk maybe directly to the government. They cannot have their own organization speaking up about different challenges we are having, and how to get started. I think what you mentioned, Kim, having this reflection on what I really want to do and what it really means, what is my purpose of life, is really important. But very often it can be, okay, maybe you found your purpose already, but still you cannot turn it into action. And I think the most important thing is that you have a community who is supporting you and who is not saying, oh, this idea is too crazy and you can never ever do it, but a community who is saying, wow, this is amazing. I actually know someone who is doing something similar. Maybe I can connect you with this person. Then you have a call and then you feel so powerful and you're just going to do it, whatever other people are saying. And this is something that Global Changemaker gave me and other organizations gave me. And I think this is so important, having this community of people who believe in you, who give trust in you, who motivate you, who are coming with questions and being interested and support you with the network and everything. And this is so powerful. So when you want to start and you already found something you would like to do, or you have a certain direction, watch out for someone or for a group or a community who can really lift you up and support you in the way. And they don't have to be from the same field. They can be from a totally different field, but people who have the spirit of change making.
I love that. I love that. Always surrounding yourself with the community, and leaving time for yourself to build those relationships as well. Darcy, Anna, I wanted to make sure you all had the opportunity to respond to those questions if you wanted to. Otherwise, we can.
I'll just very quickly say we're probably a biased panel here, but you don't have to start your own thing to make a big impact. And as a young person, you can always look at what's already out there and join and learn from those experiences and learn where you'll be able to kind of act as a leader in that space. I think that's worth acknowledging.
That's a huge thing to remember. Absolutely, especially since there's so many amazing orgs out there already that need support and need more help. Anna, did you want to respond to this question as well? Actually, it seems like Anna might be frozen. Let's give her 1 second to come back, and in the meantime, I'll go ahead and ask another question that's come up in the chat a number of times, which a few of you have already referenced, and it's this idea of, particularly, around the world, this conflict between economics and growing economies and being economically stable and sustainability. And a lot of the questions in the chat that touch on this talk about these two things in conflict. But I would love to hear from you all, from your view, how these two things can actually work together. The idea of economic growth and sustainability.
I think the big word or the big buzzword or the big movement that we should all be aware of, particularly in response to this question, is the circular economy. And that's looking at reinventing the whole value chain so that we don't, that you can kind of decouple economic growth from environmental degradation. And I think there's a lot of innovation and experimentation happening around the world within the circular economy space to show that you can be good for the planet and be profitable. But our coffee company is probably a reasonable example in that we deliver in these, so they're reusable canisters. It's become the we did it just because we thought it made sense, but it became the #1 reason that people buy our coffee. And it's cheaper for us to deliver in canisters that we use again and again and again, and then we collect all the grounds, and instead of going to landfill, they go to community gardens. And that kind of story is why we're able to sell at a premium price. So it's just one small example, but I think that the market's really shifting that allows you to do both at once, which is great.
Absolutely, that's a really great a tangible example, Darcy. Anna, welcome back. Sorry that you're having some technical difficulties there. We're answering the question right now around whether or not people think there's acknowledging the tension that exists between economic development and sustainability, but positing the question as to whether or not as a society we can actually couple those things together so that they're working off of each other. And Kemo, Murray, I wanted to give either of you a chance to respond to that question if you were so inclined.
Maybe something
Yes,
to add. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, very quickly, I just wanted to add that when we talk about growth, we mostly focus on monetary growth and material growth, and we completely leave out that there is so much other measurements of growth. There can be growth in happiness, in fulfilling, there can be growth in education, and there can be growth in having more an equal world. And there are so many different measurements we completely leave out, and they're already in place in different countries and in different communities. And for me, it's not about having a different system, but rather change how we are measuring it and how we are dealing with it. And if we find another measure of of growth, we can actually grow. We can grow all personally so much, and it's very important that we all grow, but we don't have to grow on a material, monetary world.
That is really, really important to remember. The idea of economic development, but reframing what we value when it comes to economic development. Like, do we care about the fact that people feel like they can't stay in the hometowns that they grow up in because they feel like they don't have enough opportunity? That's a problem. That's part of what we should be trying to address. Kemo, I think you were going to add something as well.
Yes, it was in relation to sustainability, and I think with regards to responsible consumption and production, most of the time people are engaged in businesses that they do not really cross-check what happens. I'm not talking about even 100 years, but they do not even look at what happens 10 years from now, 50 years from now. They are so short-sighted in their business, just putting short-term gains over long-term loss. This is what has kind of bring the discrepancy between sustainability and economic growth. Human beings feel like in phasing out of fossil fuel usage, companies feel like it's going to be so much effort or it's going to cost them so much. We've even seen world leaders that just shy away from even acknowledging reality because of economic gains or whatever they kind of believe in. But I think it comes down to just working within what one has within your means and believing in that, because we can all develop from simple things. We've seen simple solutions that actually tackle bigger problems. We've seen technology also comes in and scale up things. So I think the world can really progress. Even with our current economic status, we can transition to clean energy, and we have problems solved with all this climate crisis we are talking about. It's just that people have to push the borders to see what are the limits of their capabilities. We must be able to put our potentials to test as human race, and we can definitely get to sustainability. If we can create it, we can then safely take it back from creation to where we took it from. I think there's nothing complex about that, you know, and Darcy talked a little bit about that on the circular economy.
Carol, that's such an important point. It reminds me of a quote from Bobby Kennedy, who's one of my heroes. This world demands the qualities of youth, not as a time of life, but a state of mind and a quality of imagination. And what you just described there is the idea that young people just fundamentally see the world differently and can imagine a world in the future differently than adults. And I think that's so powerful and a critical reason why young people are a key component to not only implementing sustainability development goals, but creating a planet that works for people and the environment as well. Anna, welcome back. I think, were about to answer the previous question around time management for busy young change makers and ideas for how to get involved at the very beginning of one's change making career.
Back. Am I? Okay, I'm back. I got worried about it. Anyway, so going back to time management. So I've been in marine conservation for 10 years. I've been running my own organization for 10 years. And it's really hard to figure out what work-life balance is when you love your job so much. And for a long time, I thought I had to keep working all the time. I thought, you know, I didn't take weekends off. I didn't sleep very well. And then I got into this burnout period when I realized, you know what, it's okay to sleep. Not all of the sharks will die if I sleep for 6 hours, you know. So I think it's really figuring out what balance means to you and always finding ways to rest. So this is so pathetic, but I have an alarm on my Fitbit to remind me to stop working at 11 p.m. Like, because I don't like working in the mornings. So I work, like, I start working in the afternoon and then I work, and then it buzzes to say, like, get ready for bed. So that's me. Okay, no negotiations. I get up and then I start getting ready for bed. And then another really important tip for work-life balance is always have a sense of humor, because it's the only thing that will carry you through when times get tough. And times will get tough, and you will not even imagine the kind of situations that you'll be in when you're starting out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I also don't like working in the morning, so I understand exactly where you're coming from. So let's see, we have about 12 minutes left. I wish we had another hour and 12 minutes. Let me just quickly try and see if we can do a lightning round. Let's say 1 minute or less on these questions, and I'll try and direct them toward people. Marie, we've gotten a question around civil disobedience, and given your background with Fridays for Future, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on civil disobedience as a mechanism for affecting change.
Yeah, absolutely. History is showing that civil disobedience is an amazing tool to bring systematic changes, so deep changes to a very fixed system. So yes, absolutely needed. And but very important, civil disobedience is not connected to violence at all. So separate these two things. Civil disobedience is also a very important tool for young people who are not recognized in the political system, but never ever get violent. There is a very interesting study by a scientist, I guess, from Cambridge University, who was studying civil disobedience and movements, and she came that if there are 3.5% of a population actively trying to make this change happen, but not getting into violence, the change is going to happen. So let's unite us and our movements and get to this 3.5%, but not getting violent.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Kimo, we've got a question for you. Being in charge of a solid waste management council, how do you think recycling of plastics can be made more efficient?
Well, we have currently a few startups that I am working with, trying to create green jobs for them. We don't want to create a mechanism where we want to even, in fact, recycle plastic. We want to create laws in which we can just turn off the tap. We've already had a bill that's passed on to actually have single-use plastic ban, but for now we are only with the plastic bags, which are coming in great volumes. So we are not just attacking solid waste from the point of generation and collection. We are also going down to policy and influencing those laws. We don't want to encourage recycling plants because we will not be able to turn off this single-use plastic. Considering the pollution is doing to our marine resources, I think the innovation we are talking about comes into play. We can find alternative solutions to plastic. We no longer want a wall with plastic. That's where we are going to. So the current plastic that are on the site, we are not using recycling it per se, where some young people have taken entrepreneurial ventures to make feeder roads. So they come in to take the soft plastics, and then there's a particular name for it, and then they have this process. I don't know if it is environmentally friendly, but they are using it to make slabs and then, fill in where we have these eroded places, and then they really fill up the place. Also, we have some that are using it for these plants. We have some plants here that manufactures these pipes, these plastic pipes kind of. So they usually have an industry on the side there with so much women and children looking in for these plastics, where they cut them into pieces, wash them clean, but only a certain type of plastic that they can later on take. So we have different categories of plastic. Some are recyclable and some are not. So the ones that are not recyclable, these are the ones that we just sometimes catches fire on the landfill and being burnt. So far we are trying to compartmentalize it, but we don't have really a comprehensive recycling plan for plastic. And we are not looking forward to scaling this up. We are looking forward to turning off the tap instead of finding just solutions that can mop without really getting rid of the mess.
Thank you. Anna, question for you. How can we make wildlife, marine-based tourism more resilient? And is there anything that we can do to help communities in the long run who are communities that are this kind of sites of environmental tourism?
That's a great question because, well, pre-COVID, travel and tourism was really a booming industry, and it had a lot of negative impacts to marine wildlife. So what we're doing in the Philippines is creating marine animal interaction guidelines and passing it as a policy. And this is something that the different government agencies have to work on together: the tourism, environment, natural resources, local governments, and other agencies, because it's everyone's job to protect the sea. So I would one piece of advice is to set limits on how many people can go into the water at the same time and how far you can be, the distance that you have between you and the animal. One way to support communities is to support local suppliers and local businesses. Try to support local communities as much as possible and buy local souvenirs. And be kind to the local people that you encounter. I think that's something that, especially if you're traveling to another country, don't try to impose your beliefs on them, and understand where their decisions and where the community interaction is coming from. Yep.
I think that's a critical reminder. Thank you, Anna. And then Darcy, to you, just wanted to ask, and this is something that has come up in the chat a couple of times. Have you ever felt like quitting, or faced a struggle that really demotivated you? And if so, how did you navigate that?
What a fitting question for this time. Possibly about 2 weeks after coronavirus really hit Australia properly, 90% of our coffee sales evaporated. And we just got to the point where it was looking like we were going to be able to pay staff and reinvest profits back in Uganda, and then everything just fell apart. And we all felt like quitting. But I think it comes back to Anna's point on having a sense of humor. So we had a really fun virtual team meeting. We got everyone in, and it was laughing at the situation, at how we'd volunteered for 2 years, had just got to this point, and then it's something completely unexpected pulls the carpet out from under us. And we then completely pivoted what we were going to be working on. Rather than working on systems and logistics tasks, we decided to make a movie on responsible consumption and world positive business, because that was something that really inspired us. So I think it's about having a sense of humor, persevering through the hard times, but then also making sure that you're working on something that excites you, and doing your best to make the future seem exciting, no matter how challenging that might be.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I know it is, I'm sure, very tough right now for you, and as it is for many people around the world right now. And so hopefully folks can take that advice from you, and Anna, from you as well, on trying to stay positive, stay humorous, and hopefully we can just kind of get through this and get back to fighting for some of these other issues as well. So we have 4 minutes left. I want to give everyone a chance to just go around the horn, 30 seconds or less, how people can get in touch with you, get involved with your work, or learn more to follow you on social media or something. I just want to give everyone a chance to put that out there. Marie, can we start with you? Oh, actually, Marie might be frozen. Camo, can we start with you?
Yes, you can always connect with me via social media at Kemofati and Green Up Gambia website as well. You can just Google Green Up Gambia. You can get more insights into the work that we do on our website. You can get in touch there if you would want. Especially Anna, I'm looking forward to getting in touch with you, because I'm currently having a problem of waste. So yeah.
Awesome. Anna, what about you? How can people get in touch, follow your work?
Yeah, let's connect after this call. So I am on all the social media platforms, well, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm not on TikTok. It's at Anna Oposa, N-O-P-O-S-A. And then Save for the Bean Seas is Save BHCs on Twitter and Instagram, and Save for the Bean Seas on Facebook, and saveforthebeanseas.org for our website.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Marie, are you back? Let's give it another second. Darcy, how can people stay in touch with you?
Yep, so Kua Coffee, K-U-A Coffee. Our socials handle is Kua Coffee AU. And you can also find us online. Would love to receive an email or a message on Instagram or Twitter. So you can find us that way.
Awesome. While we give Marie a second to see if she can get unfrozen and share how people can stay in touch with her, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. This was a really, really great discussion. I wish we had another hour. There are so many questions in the chat that we're not able to get to, unfortunately, but hopefully people will follow up with you all after this. And I just want to close out the conversation by just, young people are the key to solving so many of the problems that we've talked about. It's the energy, it's the passion, it's the resilience, it's the optimism that we bring to the table to move and force action on issues that have for too long seen inaction. I think one of the biggest threats that our environment can face, and this is a butchered quote from Robert Frost, but the idea that someone else is going to do something. We can't wait for other people to do something. We have to, every single one of us has to be the ones to take action. You all embody that. And I know that the people watching are trying to figure out as well, how can they follow in your footsteps? So thank you for being leaders. Thank you for kind of serving as mentors in this way that you have. And thank you for your work. Really, really appreciate it, and really appreciate getting to know you all. It looks like Gabriella dropped a chat for Marie Claire's Facebook page. So in case you all aren't able to find that, I think we'll drop it there, and we can also drop it in the Facebook group if we need to. Sorry, Marie, that we lost you there at the end, but we're right at time, so I'm gonna say thank you and have everyone sign off. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much to everyone. If this were an auditorium, I would ask everyone to clap and cheer. This has been an amazing, amazing session. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your questions and for really listening to everyone. Anna, Marie Claire, Kemo, Darcy, thank you. We learned a lot from you, and thank you for donating your time and for being here to just share your thoughts and about what you do. I would also like to thank all of you, the participants, for joining live or watching the recordings. Yes, you will get an email, so please make sure you're checking your emails with access to all of these recordings. Now, please have a look at the Handouts tab. You can download the full event program and a free tool by Global Changemakers. Finally, please fill out the poll that we're going to see in a few minutes. And we hope you enjoy the rest of the summit and the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Hey.
Oh, wait.
So are we good?
You were amazing. You were absolutely amazing.
You were so good, Andrew. What a great job moderating.
Oh no, it's easy when everyone has amazing stories to tell. Oh my gosh, that was great. You all are absolutely amazing. Okay. I'd love to stay in touch with everyone. Is everyone still on this?
I think on the email where there's one email where you'll see all the everyone in this panel. I think when I sent the description,
Okay.
yeah. Otherwise, I'm happy to connect you guys. Thank you so much, Andrew. It was an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. Thank you. I'm going to go for a run now. So I'll talk to you all later.
Awesome. Enjoy your day. Thanks.
You all too. Bye.
Bye.